It's just
Oh, no.
process, right? We've already discussed it. It's just a matter of making sure we get the final approvals. Typically, consent agenda, by the way, I just read the titles, we make a motion to approve and it's done. So, usually. It's perfectly fine, though. Anything that you want to pull out for discussion, not a problem at all. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir. How are you, Mayor?
Good. I'm wondering why we're having all these wrecks around here all of a sudden.
Right? Got a full report for you.
Council rules of procedures was a section in there on.
You got everything bookmarked and everything.
I got, many years ago, I got tired of flipping back and forth and flipping back, trying to find it. So I, as the major topics are tagged on the top, and then whenever I have a comment or question that I think I need to ask, which may be answered during our discussion, I tag it on the sides.
See, I'm lucky. I get up in your area, so I just spread everything out.
And there's a couple. So here when it comes to revenue. That's my method.
Was it Councilor Prinsloo that used to put it all in a binder? I think he used.
Yeah, we had
Yeah,
a binder.
he was ready to go. Everything binded.
Sure.
A lot of opportunity. Morning, we're last time.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now they're good. I mean, they're in their thirties.
Right.
They're still for the world.
Yeah.
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 As you can see, we usually have a pretty packed audience too. Now that Chris and Patrick have been elected, now we even have more of them here.
Yeah, now the crowd is like.
I'm just making a one-time showing.
Some years, it's not uncommon to have almost no, but,
Couple of them.
when you start getting to like urban growth and things like that, they tend to go up.
Well, we want to make sure everybody feels invited and encouraged to come.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's great about our town is they will if they need to.
Yeah.
Almost time. We have 7 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I do welcome everyone to our first meeting, city council meeting for 2025. For those that are interested, we do have this in a hybrid format to where we are live streaming it on YouTube. And it's being recorded as well, which means you can watch it at convenience at your home, or you can watch it later on if you so desire. Usually I have a nice little script I'll read, but I'll kind of skip through it for now. So with that, counselors, before we move on to the first agenda topic, is there any consent agenda topics that you would like with pulled out for regular discussion? And I'll go around with soon to be sworn in Counselor Hazadi.
No.
Okay, Counselor Steiner,
I do not.
Counselor Yonlin,
I do not.
and soon to be sworn in Counselor Pichelle.
Nothing.
And am I saying the last name Pichelle, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. See, I don't use the syllable breakdown for Steininger's name anymore, but I'm used to it. Yeah, okay, so with that, I did mention we do have one agenda change today. That's agenda topic number 4, the award presentation. We're gonna move that to February. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the swearing in of both the mayor and the new city council members. It looks like I will be the first one up for the term of January 14th, 2025 to December 31st, 2026.
You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Charles Rostisel,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
perform the duties of mayor
perform the duties of mayor
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
the state of
the
Oregon,
state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Hubbard.
of the city of Hubbard.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome back aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank goodness you did. My memory's not that good. Okay, so with mine out of the way, we will move on now to City Councilor Patrick Zine for the term of councilor from January 14th, 2025 to December 31st, 2028.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
perform the duties of city councilor
perform the duties of city councilor
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
the state of Oregon,
the state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Hubbard.
of the city of Hubbard.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we will now ask City Councilor Chris Fischel up for his swearing in for the term of January 14th, 2025 to December 31st, 2020.
State your name.
I, Chris Fischel,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
perform the duties of city councilor
perform the duties of city councilor
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States,
and the laws of the United States,
the state of
the
Oregon,
state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Hubbard.
of the city of Hubbard.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
All right, Councilor-elect, fully sworn in, so welcome aboard. Next one will be appointment of a council president. So on this one, I do want to make a recommendation or nomination, and I want to explain why. I would like to nominate Joseph Steininger to take the position of president. The reasoning behind this is we've actually got 3 experienced councilors and even an ex-mayor up here now with Jim Yonley, Joseph Steininger, and myself. I would like to try to have the opportunity for someone who hasn't yet had the opportunity to be president or mayor to step into the role to learn some of the workings that go behind the scenes. If something, God forbid, was to happen to me, I know the council president needs to pick up and take over this role, or at least until temporarily until the council will elect a new mayor. And I would like to make sure that we have the experience spread out between both Jim Yonley, who I know could easily do this role, and also Joseph Steininger. So that's why I'm making the recommendation or nomination. So with that, is there any other nominations that anyone else would like to make? If not, is there a motion?
Well, I second that nomination for Joseph Steininger. I make a motion that, Joseph Steininger be, elected our city council president.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Carries unanimously. Congratulations, Joseph,
Thank you.
and good luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you said, and I will be honored to take on the responsibilities.
You'll do very well. And as I said, you have me leaning on, you also have Councilor Young leaning on as well. 3 experienced stuff here to be able to help you through it. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on now to the meatier parts of the agenda. The first one is going to be a public hearing, the legislative 4. This is, by the way, continued from December 10th, 2024. And I think it was continued even before then. For legislative amendment LA 202403, a legislative amendment for the horizontal mixed use regarding language to revise the Hubbard Development Code, allowing for residential development within the C commercial zone on the ground floor rather than only above a primary commercial district. So I have a script that I'm going to be reading here. We have our city planner, Byram, online as well, who will be actively participating and actually leading on this discussion. Since we have a pretty light audience here, I'll be surprised if it takes too long. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up this meeting by reading the script. So good evening. My name is Charles Rostazel. I am mayor of the city of Hubbard, and I will be presiding over this hearing. This is the time and place set for the public hearing in the matter of legislative amendment LA 2024-03, amendments to the Hubbard Development Code commercial zone to allow for horizontal mixed-use development. The hearing is now open. It is 7:07 p.m. Oregon land use law requires several items be read into the record at the beginning of every public hearing. The city planner will review this material. Your patience is appreciated as she goes through these statements.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay, Mayor?
We can hear you perfectly fine.
Thank you, sir. Okay, here is the legal script. The applicable substantive criteria upon which this case will be decided are found in the Hubbard Development Code, the City of Hubbard Comprehensive Plan, and the Oregon statewide planning goals. The specific criteria are summarized in the staff report and will be reviewed at this hearing. All testimony and evidence received during this public hearing must be directed toward these approval criteria or to such other rule, law, regulation, or policy which you believe to apply to this case. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised no later than the close of the record of the final evidentiary hearing on this case. Such issues shall be raised with and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford this body and the parties to this hearing an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. This public hearing will proceed with the staff report and any other comments from governmental agencies in attendance, followed by all of those who are in support of the code amendments. All those opposed to the code amendments will then be allowed to speak, followed by those with general comments who are neither for nor against the amendments. All speakers should try to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and mailing address clearly to the microphone, or you can provide your mailing address on a speaker card to city staff as well. Please try to avoid repetition. If someone else has already expressed the same thoughts, it's perfectly all right to state that you agree with the statements of that previous speaker. Please be assured that everyone will have an opportunity to speak. If you have documents, maps, or letters that you wish to have considered by this body, they must be formally placed in the record of this proceeding. To do that, either before or after you speak, please submit the material to city staff. Thank you.
Okay, so with that out of the way, I need to ask the audience and city councilors a few questions. Now, keep in mind, city councilors, you've yet to go through your introductory training, but most of this is pretty self-explanatory. So the first one is I need to ask if there is any objections to the notice that was published. I don't believe we have anyone online outside, but I'll give them a chance. Anyone online have any objections? Okay, if not, counselors and or audience. Okay, are there any declarations of bias by any member of this body? Basically, as counselors. Okay. Are there any declarations of conflict by any member of this body? Perfect. All right. So we'll go ahead and City Planner Holly Byram, please give the staff report.
Wonderful. Let's see. Vicki, is it possible to share the staff report?
Yes, just a moment.
Thank you. And while she's authorizing me to share my screen, for the record, my name is Holly Byram, and I work for the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I have served as the contract city planner for Hubbard for over 7 years now, and I've enjoyed my time working with staff there very much. My goal this evening is to help the City Council understand the decision criteria that apply to this particular case. So without further ado, I will walk through the brief staff report. At the top of that staff report, it does say staff report to the Planning Commission, but this is also the staff report to the City Council. The findings are the same. So let me go ahead and pull that up here. Okay, so this is a legislative amendment. And so what that means is that the city is enacting a policy change. You are revising the language within the Hubbard Development Code. And the Development Code provides the rules about how properties in Hubbard can be developed. Tonight's legislative amendment is the result of several months of working sessions between the City Council and the Planning Commission and a private developer. So this was initially a proposal that came from a developer representing a local property owner. And the concern was that in Hubbard's commercial zone, dwellings, residences were only allowed essentially on a second or third floor above a commercial use. And what the developer was proposing was that we provide for additional methods of mixed use development. So having residential and employment uses on the same project and that they would be side by side. And so the term horizontal mixed use essentially refers to that, side by side residential and commercial development. Of course, with all things, the devil was in the details, and so it took a couple months to really work through what that could look like in Hubbard. The goal here was to strike a balance ultimately between using your employment land, your commercial zone, to accommodate local businesses while also allowing a certain amount of residential development. And so what this might look like would be a commercial shop up front, potentially with apartments behind that, or a multifamily development behind that. We know that your comprehensive plan encourages a variety of housing types. One size does not fit all, and so the city strives to provide a range of housing options. The comprehensive plan also encourages residential development abutting or within walking distance of your commercial businesses. So in this manner, we were striving to strike that balance. Just to review the procedure here, this is a type 4 action, which means that 2 public hearings were required. The first public hearing was by the Planning Commission, and then the second public hearing is held by the City Council. The Planning Commission made a recommendation to City Council. Tonight, the City Council is expected to make a decision, and then it will be enacted and through a later ordinance adoption. So the types of public notices that were required include your standard notices like through the newspaper, but also a special notice called a Measure 56 notice, which was mailed to every single property owner who owns commercial property in the city of Hubbard. I've included a timeline in the staff report, just kind of a review of where we've been, especially for the new counselors, just to kind of refresh our memories here. To recap the Planning Commission recommendation, their public hearing was on December 17th, and on that evening, the Planning Commission voted 3-2 to recommend the City Council approve this legislative amendment. The 2 who were not in support of this exact language they expressed some concerns about the amount of residential allowed through this legislative amendment package, and I'll walk through that briefly here in a moment. On page 3 of the staff report, I've included just a snapshot of the zoning map, and this is important because that dark, I guess you'd call it a salmon color, that's your commercial zone properties. And so these properties are mostly located along the east side of Highway 99E, and then also along the 3rd Street corridor as well. So these are the properties that we're talking about tonight, only the commercial zone properties. The decision criteria are found in the Hubbard Development Code, and they essentially refer to your comprehensive plan. Earlier, I talked about striking that balance between providing housing options while also preserving sufficient employment land for commercial businesses. When your comprehensive plan was determined by the state to be, when it was acknowledged, it was determined to be consistent with the 19 statewide planning goals. I've included those 19 goals here to refresh our memories and also to remind us that that these are the goals all cities strive to comply with here. The important ones this evening are goals 1 and 2. Those are the procedures that we use to make local land use decisions and the types of public involvement opportunities we provide. Goal 9 is about economic development. Goal 10 is about housing. Goal 11 is about public facilities and services, and Goal 12 is about transportation. So the staff report is very brief, but essentially here, all this good work has gone into trying to strike a balance here, creating more development opportunities, specifically mixed-use development opportunities in your commercial zone. Exhibit A to the staff report is the proposed language, and those are attached as red line track changes here. So to the Hubbard Development Code, the following changes are proposed. The first one is to add mixed-use development to the definition section. The next is to make mention of mixed-use developments within the commercial district in the purpose statement of the C zone. And then within the commercial zone, there's a list of uses permitted in that zone. And this is where we will reference the brand new mixed-use development standards that are being proposed. You'll see the old language there that allowed dwelling units in the C zone only when they were accessory to a permitted use or above a permitted use. And that language is proposed to be removed. It's important to note that there are dimensional standards and development standards within the C zone. The majority of those will remain the same. The setbacks will remain the same. The height limits will remain the same. All the parking requirements and landscaping requirements, none of those are proposed to change with this legislative amendment. And then the new language really comes in under the development standards in 2.106.05 with a new sub H. And these are the standards that apply to new mixed-use developments. The first one here is that there shall be no minimum or maximum density. The reason we made this note is that the council will remember that most of your residential zones have a minimum and maximum density, and that is not the case here for mixed-use developments. Any concerns about too many dwelling units, certainly those would be limited by all the other requirements on the site, such as setbacks and parking and open space. The next one is about lot coverage. Typically in commercial zones, we don't see lot coverage standards so that employment lands can be developed to their maximum. The third one is about the minimum of ground floor area required to be occupied by commercial use. And these two highlighted pieces in section 3 and 4 are really where the majority of the discussion was. How do we strike that balance between commercial uses and residential uses? And then the developer has provided some really good feedback about when a project is feasible. Their request was to allow up to 80% of the ground floor footprint to be residential. We talked through that as staff and with the Planning Commission. We talked to the consultant performing the city's economic opportunities analysis currently. There was a little bit concern about allowing 80%. And so the compromise here was allowing 70% of that ground floor footprint to be residential. So number 3 here requires that minimum of 30% to be commercial there. Number 4, commercial uses shall occupy a minimum of 90% of the ground floor building facade along the primary frontage. So presumably that frontage would be your 99 facing frontage or your 3rd Street facing frontage. And that is to retain the purpose of this district, which is first and foremost commercial development. 5 is a reference to screening and buffering standards. 6 is a reference to the landscaping standards. And 7 is an outdoor play area requirement. This language comes predominantly from your R3 zone, your high density residential zone, which already requires an outdoor recreation area for multifamily apartments. And so this is almost verbatim from that section. So what you see here before you this evening in this legislative amendment is the result of several months of working sessions and also a compromise from what the developers requested. I think one of the developers is online with us this evening and can speak to this being a satisfactory compromise. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we can go straight over to any other staff that would like to say some words. I don't know if Sean has words prepared for this, but that concludes my staff report.
John, you have anything you want to add? Sorry, Administrator Wade, anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Holly. At this time, I do not. It has been a very extensive process that we've gone through with the planning commission. And so I'll turn it over to council.
Okay, so this is where we have a chance now. Are there any questions of staff from the city council before we continue and accept public testimony? And if it's okay with everyone, I do have one question. And that is mailers were sent out to all the property owners that would be impacted. Did we receive any feedback from those mailers, or did any of that feedback get put into the public hearings held by the planning commission?
I don't believe we received any feedback. Holly, did you receive anything?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Any other questions then for staff and or Ollie before we move on? I'm gonna go around the room and I'll start over here with Councilor Michelle. Anything that you would like to ask?
No, actually Holly answered the only question I had, so we're good.
Wonderful. Councilor Young?
I think all my questions have been answered today.
Councilor Steiner?
I just would like to make sure that I'm seeing this right, and it's the commercial general or CG, not the residential commercial, correct?
That's correct. There were initial discussions about whether we should open up that section as well, and it was ultimately determined that the 99 corridor and the 3rd Street corridors were the priorities.
Great. That's just what I wanted to make sure I was on the right page. Thank you.
Councilor Zahn?
No, all the questions were answered. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move along. I will now accept public testimony regarding this case. Is there anyone who would like to speak in support of the amendments? And by the way, anyone that's online, feel free to unmute and speak up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Mayor and councilors, my name is Jerry Jones. I'm with Mocker Land and Development. And I just wanted to make a quick comment in appreciation to the staff that you have there at City of Hubbard, as also with Holly Byram of Mid-Valley. I think that as they've explained, that this has been a very collaborative process from a public and private partnership where there is private development that's looking to move forward, has had some barriers to some catalytic projects, and found ways to work together on this. So I just wanted to express that and make sure that you, as the policymakers and decision makers, know of the city that you do have a great staff. Sean and Vicky as well. It's been really good to work with. We worked in multiple cities throughout the Northwest and just really appreciated what's going on in Hubbard. And hopefully as this gets passed soon, looking forward to bringing in something pretty cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in support? If not, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the amendments? Second. If not, is there anyone who would like to speak neither for nor against the amendments, aka neutral? Would the city council like staff to address any of the testimony? Obviously, there really wasn't any testimony to address. So with that, we'll go ahead and move along. Before I close or continue the public hearing, are there any additional questions from the city council or staff or anyone? As a reminder, once I close the hearing, only the city council or staff may speak. Okay. With that, public testimony is now over. I will close the public hearing at 7:26 p.m. I will now entertain discussion on the amendments and or motion. So this could be additional discussion with the city council. Just to let both Councilor Zadi and Councilor Michelle know, I'm not sure how much you're kind of ramped up on what's going on here. But the issue that we ran into early on was we have these very deep lots. And the idea of trying to make them all the way down commercial seemed like a waste of time, or you ended up having a commercial, something really set back far from the road. The goal here is to try to maximize the land usage to allow them to put something commercial up along 99, for example, 99E, for example, and then have some sort of or residential option to obviously alleviate some of the housing crises that we have in the rest of that acreage. We saw some really great concept drawings, et cetera, what they're looking for. So if you have any additional questions off of that, I just want to make sure if you weren't aware of what was kind of being discussed, that's what they're really trying to do. You can also see a lot of this type of development going on in a lot of cities now as they try to figure out how do we loosen up some of these development codes to allow more of this mixed use opportunity. And Administrator Boyd, did I misspeak on anything?
No.
Good. Okay, so is there any additional discussion from council for staff?
So we're gonna meet all the commercial requirements on the property, correct? There's no, and then the additional for the outdoor play area requirements for the residential portion of that. And I think the idea here was, again, we've got these lots that are sitting here, difficult to develop with our current code, and was to try and get that development moving. We have there's more commercial businesses in Hubbard, along with, we have a very tight housing market in the area, hopefully to improve our housing as well. So I think that was the main emphasis of going this route. We had a cut, I guess there's been at least one landowner who's trying to do some sort of development, was running into code problems, and this is we want more development within Hubbard. And this is kind of a conglomeration of an answer to that difficulty there. So just to get things moving forward, get more commercial businesses coming in, get more housing to come in. So that's what we put from Councilor Donnie. Anyone else care to speak up? Any other additional questions? Okay, Administrator Wade, do we need a motion to adopt this? What's the next steps?
Yes, please.
Okay. I would like to make a motion then that we adopt legislative amendment LA 202403, a legislative amendment for horizontal mixed use regarding language to revise the Hubbard Development Code, allowing for residential development within the C commercial zones on the ground floor rather than above a primary commercial development.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, on page 6 of the 6 of 9 of the report, additional information is to be in the motion. He has some sample motions.
Got it. All right. Easy enough. Make a motion to approve, which is the same language I already said. I get it. And adopt findings obtained by the staff report and direct staff to prepare the enacting ordinances. So basically, it was just that little bit I was missing. Got it. Do we have a second for that?
I'll still second it.
Okay, we have a second on my revised motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion will carry. And here. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda next topic, discussion. Discuss Hubbard Municipal Code, Chapter 2.10, Council Rules and Procedures.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's been some discussion regarding the start time of city council meetings and options to possibly move the meeting time from 7 p.m. to an earlier time. The start time for city council meetings is identified in the Hubbard Municipal Code, Chapter 2.10, Council Rules of Procedure, under Section 2.10.010, Regular Meetings. If the city council would like to amend the start time of council meetings, there are two options for city council to consider. One, direct staff to amend Chapter 2.10, Section 2.10.010 to reflect the desired start time. Or two, change the time by a motion duly passed at a regular meeting. This would require that a motion and a vote be conducted at each regular meeting. And I'll turn it over to council for discussion.
So I am totally to blame for this one. What I'd like to try to do is see if we can move our start time up to 6:30, which kind of aligns with most other city councils and or parliamentary type activities. North Marion, for example, youth athletics, school board. They all start a little bit earlier to hopefully not keep us here until 9 p.m. at times. Now, what I put forward was to see if we can change the time from 7 to start at 6:30. Now, don't know if that would work for everyone. That's why we wanted to wait until this new council's been sat before we actually had that type of discussion. The last council totally punted it off. So with that, just want to open it up and we'll start over with Councilor Fischel. Any issues or concerns adjusting the time?
No, I have none. I think 6:30 would be great. I'd love to get home a little earlier.
Councilor Young, any concerns from you?
It has no direct impact on me, at this point, so, yeah, 6:30 would be fine.
Okay, Councilor Steiner?
I personally like 7. I know sometimes we need to do executive council stuff and having the time to be able to come in before, sometimes it's nice. So I'm not sure I'm completely opposed, but I do like 7.
Okay, so you're kind of a neutral.
I like 7.
Councilor Zadi?
I'm also gonna say that I'm neutral, just a half an hour. I don't like getting out early.
Okay, with that, I would like to, if we do make a change, direct staff to make the change in the actual code as opposed to every council session having an agenda topic to move it. Now, as needed, we can adjust it till later if whatever needed, if there's something was coming up. So with that, I'll make it really simple and you guys can then, skewer me later when I get all of these numbers wrong. But I would like to make a motion that we adjust section 2.10 in the Hubbard Municipal Code, section 2.1.0.010. Did I get that right?
Correct.
To have the city council meeting start at 6:30 p.m. and not 7. That's the motion I'll put.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, if we do, so it has passed, so if you guys can move forward and make that adjustment. Do you need anything else from us on that?
So Mayor, I'd just like some clarification. So the meeting in February would still be at 7 o'clock?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because we haven't yet approved the language change. That's fine. And that will allow Councilor Steininger to have another single clock. Maybe I'm just greedy. I'd like to get out half an hour earlier. Okay, anything else on that agenda topic, Administrator Wade?
No, thank you,
Then
Mayor.
let's go ahead and move on to the financial forecast. Again, handing it back over to Administrator Wade. And we should all have this in our packet. Yeah.
So, okay. I was like, they don't want to read my notes. Or maybe they do.
PowerPoint.
So thank you, council. I am presenting the 5-year City of Hubbard financial forecast. I had provided a forecast last fiscal year as well. And so this is an update to that forecast. The intent of the forecast is to project the financial position of primary operating funds based on current service levels and conservative assumptions. The forecast sets the stage for the annual budget development process, aiding staff, the budget committee, and the city council in establishing policies and priorities to allocate resources appropriately. To enhance the accuracy of projections, factors are identified that contribute to the changes in revenues and expenditures, such as development, policy decisions, inflation, the collective bargaining agreement with the Hubbard Police Officers Association, interest rates, and known future events that will affect operations. The demographics have remained relatively stable from this time last year. The population has decreased by approximately 75 people since February of 2024, and the median age has increased by a year, which would be expected. The household income has remained unchanged, as well as the population projections. The majority of the population within Hubbard commutes to other areas such as Tigard, Beaverton, and Salem. The average poverty level of 11.2% is associated with members of the community on fixed incomes, single-family homes, and displaced workers as a result of layoffs, reduction in workforce, and position eliminations. The Census Bureau and Economic Forecast for Marion County identify these areas as a shift in the ag industry within the Hubbard community and fewer agricultural jobs. In the development of the forecast, a conservative approach has been taken to ensure that expenditures and revenues are not over or understated. Materials and supplies inflation aligns with the average consumer price index of 3.3%, and professional services have been increased by 5%. Utility costs have been projected at a 7.9% increase year over year, but that number could be too low given the number and the amount of utility increases that have occurred just in the last year. Property tax was projected based on a 3% growth rate, which is what is allowable per state budgeting laws. And please note that the projections for property tax revenue do include a 19% reduction for those properties that will be removed and included in the urban renewal district. The property tax revenue growth for the properties identified in the district will be placed in the urban renewal agency beginning in fiscal year 27 and are not reflected in this presentation. The assumptions within this forecast align to the fiscal year 25 budget policy that was adopted by the City Council in fiscal year 24 as part of the budget development process. Staff will be presenting an updated budget policy document for City Council's consideration during the February meeting. This forecast will be adjusted if any modifications are made to that budget policy. This current fiscal year, the initial proposed budget has a structural imbalance of $129,000. Staff have been able to mitigate this imbalance through vacancy savings and holding off on certain expenditures. However, the budget development for fiscal year 26 will ensure a structurally balanced budget, meaning that expenditures will equal or be less than projected revenues. This will mean reductions in materials and services and limited extra project expenses. There will be a limited cost of living adjustment increases for non-represented employees, if any adjustments are made at all. Additionally, the City Council has approved moving forward with placing a 3-cent per gallon fuel tax measure on the May 2025 ballot. While the outcome of this vote will not be known until May, state budget law requires that the city budget for the city to budget as if the tax had been approved. If the tax is not approved by voters, staff will remove the revenue associated and expenditure lines as well prior to the fiscal year 26 budget being adopted by City Council. Over the past several years, the general fund has experienced stagnant or declining growth in key revenue streams. The beginning fund balance chart that is presented today is much different than what was presented last year at this time. Property tax is a cornerstone of the city's revenue. Constraints imposed by Measure 5 and 50 is limiting the growth of property tax, which is used to fund critical services such as public safety, infrastructure maintenance and improvements that are increasingly being deferred, and a strategic and emergency response. However, as stated, this beginning fund balance graph looks much different than than last year's graph, as the beginning fund balance has stabilized as a result of several policy decisions made by City Council in fiscal years 24 and 25. The forecast does not include project funds and the reserve fund. Project funds are budgeted as funding is allowed. So example, the street construction, park improvement, sewer construction, water construction, those funds will not be discussed during this presentation, as that is where our major projects for infrastructure replacement and repair occur. For example, the static water pressure project has been budgeted this year as the city received ARPA funds and a low interest rate loan for the project. With those funds and some additional funds set aside by the city, the project will be completed in 2026 or close to. Additionally, the city received a grant for approximately $340,000 to purchase new playground equipment for Readiness Park and a legislative appropriation of $1.1 million that will support water and wastewater projects. Those funds were each budgeted either in the park improvement, sewer construction, or water construction fund. The forecast last year reflected the fund balance decreasing at a rapid rate in the general fund, as the fund balance was needed to offset operating expenditures. However, two factors have contributed to the stabilization of the general fund beginning balance for the next 3 years. Again, policy decisions made by the city council, such as entering into intergovernmental agreements to provide police services for the city of Donald and the North Marion School District, has increased revenue. Additionally, as a result, citation revenue has increased by providing police services to the city of Donald. The second factor relates to new staff salaries that are starting at a lower rate than the predecessors and what was budgeted. However, as indicated by the graph, additional revenue will be needed by fiscal year 29 to mitigate the operating deficit. This graph identifies expenditures by program area within the general fund. As you can see, the police department makes up 62% of the expenditures in the general fund. Well, stop from the police chief. No walk of shame.
Right. Speechless.
Park expenditures are associated with ongoing park maintenance and repairs. Administration provides support for all city functions, including payroll, finance, utility billing, land use, newsletter production, court, city council, and planning commission, just to name a few of those functions. Community development funds, the city's comprehensive plan, community visioning work such as movies in the park, and the urban renewal district planning. Court is associated with traffic and ordinance citations or violations, and city council expenditures are associated with any specific legal guidance that may be needed, or training and membership fees. The street fund, the primary revenue in this fund is generated from state gas tax, which is actually on a decline, and transportation utility fees and right-of-way permits. The graph reflects the need to use the beginning fund balance to support operational costs. This is not a structurally balanced model, and if the state revenues continue to decline, the need for additional revenue options will be necessary, as the general fund will not have the capacity to offset the deficit. So in the street fund, there are, within the expenditure line item, that includes staffing costs, benefit costs, and then also some materials and services as well. So as you can see, the beginning fund balance, which is the yellow line, we are digging into that beginning fund balance. So there is going to need to be a conversation about some sort of rate increase. The sewer utility fund forecast has a primary revenue fund of service charges. While this model reflects a significant operating deficit, as the city grows and new development occurs, like we were just discussing in the previous topic, it will actually increase some revenue. So while the beginning fund balance has a very sharp decrease, I believe with some of the new development that will be coming online will increase usage and increase our revenue. So I actually think this will stabilize a little bit more with continued growth within our city over the next 5 years. Additionally, there is a rate study that will be underway this fiscal year that will provide additional information for consideration by the city council. The water utility fund is similar to that of the sewer fund. The revenue source is driven by water consumption. The fund's costs are a mix of fixed costs and variable expenses for system and infrastructure required to provide water to our community and industry. Again, sustainability of this fund is linked to the city's growth and new development, as well as the recommendations from the rate study of the city for city council's consideration. Some of the major assumptions moving forward as we consider budget development for fiscal year 26. As stated earlier, the assumptions include Measure 5 and 50, the consideration of information that comes from the utility and SDC rate study. Project planning and the fuel tax is approved by voters, state revenues decreasing and other revenues remaining flat while expenditures continue to increase. The debt service for the police vehicles has been paid off this fiscal year. However, the need to develop a capital equipment and vehicle replacement schedule to adequately budget for high dollar expenditures will need to be completed this fiscal year and be included in the budget development process for fiscal year 26. Other issues in the coming year include the need to continue focus on stabilizing finances across all funds in light of rising wages and increased costs of retirement such as PERS, medical insurance, and utilities, and the need to grow the workforce to sustain a growing community. Continue to address aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance. Continued work to define a plan for the 20-year urban growth boundary expansion and expansion of the economic development program. So while this financial forecast is not as bleak, I have to say, as the one that was presented last year, I give credit to the city council for the policy decisions that they have made to implement the public safety fee, enter into the intergovernmental agreements, and also some other structural expenditure decisions that have really guided and stabilized our beginning fund balance, especially in our general fund. And with that, I will turn it over to council for questions.
First question I might have then, Mr. White, would be, though it looks okay for a few years, obviously we've got some drop-offs coming quickly at the beginning of funds, and I'm assuming that's just because they're not going to be keeping up with the 3.3% increase every year with expenditures or costs, whatever it might be. We have a rate study that's being done this year, and I'm assuming it will be done in time before we move into the budget creation for 25, 26, or will that not be available until we go into that?
It might not be available until next fiscal year.
Okay.
We're working on the contract now for that consultant. And so we hope to have that executed before long, but again, it depends on how long that scope of work takes the consultant.
And I'm assuming the forecast does not take into any potential future development, such as the Bear Creek development or other development areas, or are you including that in the forecast?
I have not included any of that in the forecast. So from the property tax perspective, a lot of that new development property that's just on the cusp of developing is included in the urban renewal district boundary mapping. So that property tax will go directly to the urban renewal district. Well, none of that.
So it won't even go into ours yet. Okay.
But we will see the revenue from the sewer and water usage, SDC charges.
Right.
So that's why I say this is a very conservative model, not forecasting any development at this time.
I'd rather see a conservative model than an over optimistic model.
Yeah.
Let's go around the room and we'll start off with Counselor Pichelle. Do you have any questions or any concerns of what you're seeing?
No.
I know it's a real meaty topic for your first meeting. You're like thinking, I just like get up. I don't walk away. Okay, Counselor Yonley?
Yeah, just, so we're with our, that. Today we're having that's for the sewer and water utility
And
Fees.
SDGs.
and SDT. So, yeah, I've been through this a couple of times where we've had to, institute water, schedule water rate increases over a period of years. For a long time, our sewer and street funds are doing well. It's like we're beyond that now. About the street fund, is there any way we could maybe do a slight incremental increase in those costs? To help raise up that revenue bar?
Yeah, that could be something, I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
There's
Me
my
talking,
budget,
I
I'm
don't
sitting right there.
It is.
That could be something that we can talk about. I'll talk to superintendent about that and what we can do for those rates, yeah.
Okay.
But part of that is funded through state gas tax, so that is actually, we're seeing kind of a downturn on that tax a little bit.
With the
Just
EVs
because,
coming out,
pardon?
with the EVs coming
Yes.
out.
Mhm.
We just set up a Hubbard toll road, that's all. That's a joke. We're not setting up a toll.
Good thing or you just grow.
What's it full next month?
And just one other, I know I kind of tossed this out a couple of times, and I know it hasn't gotten much traction at this point, but, health insurance, healthcare costs continue to rise, and they're, chewing up a lot of our, money that the city has. Can we take a look at maybe cost sharing that, maybe with the new employees, new hires, to help down the road as doing a percentage or a dollar amount cost share, maybe something minimal like a 3% or a 5% cost share on that. Where it's not gonna have huge impacts on paycheck, but it helps cover some of that, where, our healthcare costs continue going up. It's a great deal that Hubbard has when it comes to our staff. We pay 100% of the healthcare premiums for the staff and their families, which is great. I love it. Helps draw in good talent. But at the same time, these costs are 7% or something like that. I forget where I was reading that. 5% forecasted 5% growth assumption year over year. And I know there for a while it was running quite a bit higher than that.
Well, and I do want to say, so the benefit costs, so I just got a high level estimate from CIS. They actually won't be making their formal announcement until February. So it could be higher than 5%.
So I mean, so we don't, I know it's costing us that much with the current employees, but that's just kind of a softening effect over time. Maybe we can take a look at looking at a 3 or a 5% cost share on healthcare costs, or maybe even more, as we hire in new staff. That may be a direction to help soften some of those personnel costs. At least that's something that I would like to kind of toss out there again.
I think that's a great thing to talk about and have a discussion during the budget cycle, for sure. It's pretty common in the corporate world or in the private sector to see that happening anyhow.
And it's common actually within municipalities and city. And the other thing that I was kind of go at here is our franchise fees. Because I mean, I was looking at my bills as they came in yesterday, and there's a city franchise cost. It's not a whole lot. So I think when I was looking, it was $2.20 or something like that. I was sending to the city, including my bill. Can we do maybe a slight increase on our franchise fees? Can we raise those by 1 or 2% to, increase revenue in that area as well? Just to kind of, let's increase that revenue over time. Like I said, these percentages that we have out there right now are impacted by what you call compression. Basically, inflation rate is much higher year over year than actual our franchise fees. And so we end up, those franchise fees mean less and less over time to our overall budget. And maybe there's some way we can kind of increase those franchise fees a little bit to help with that compression, income compression over time. So that might be another idea to toss out there.
Another great discussion. I don't know if we have a schedule for those or not.
But anyway, so those are just some revenue ideas that I've been kind of tossing around and I'd like to kind of toss out there again for thought and discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
About $2 franchise fee.
$2.20 it was. I don't remember what
Cash
it
the
was.
check.
Well, that was just, my part on the whole bill. Yeah.
Jeez, okay.
That was just one utility bill. I know I pay it on a number of different things.
Counselor Steiner?
I was just glad to see it's not going as fast as it was last year, so I appreciate all the hard work that the whole city has gone into finding ways to mitigate that, and I appreciate you thanking us, but bringing the recommendations is super helpful, so thank you.
Definitely a team effort. We can't make the approvals without the recommendations coming in, for sure. Counselor Zine?
Yeah, I just, like to second basically what, Councilor Young said. I kind of thought about the same thing. I run two businesses and it's pretty normal to cost share with the employees to help costs. So I think we need to take a serious look at that. That's about it. Thank you.
Wonderful. I don't have any additional comments on top of that. Administrator Wade, anything else before we move on?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, by the way, for a very detailed and great overview of where we're going, the assumptions that went into it, the areas that we got to worry about. Be a good primer when we go into the budget cycle again, too.
Yeah.
Especially with the expensive police department. Okay, we'll move on. Appearances of interested citizens. Yeah, it's a very thick line, blue. It's not a thin line, is it? Okay, joking aside, do we have any, well, we only have Chief Carmen online. So with that, the only two citizens in here is Mrs. Zadi and Mrs. Ross to settle. So any comments or interest?
Oh, yeah, I actually do have to make a comment. Crystal Ross DeSille, 3427 4th Street, Hubbard, Oregon. First of all, I appreciate that the Donald Hubbard police have been involved in the school activities as heavily as they have, and they've made a positive impact, and we just appreciate that. But second of all, the North, let me think, no. National Art Honor Society is collecting exterior paint, used or new, for a project at the primary school. So if you hear of any or know of any that's around, they're collecting paint for a huge exterior kind of mural thing at the primary school for the bus line.
Is there a date on that? Do we know? Or who's collecting it?
Sarah Bailey.
Okay.
Sarah Bailey's collecting it, and I can get some more details. She sent me an email.
Okay,
But I
could
just
you
wanted
just
to
forward an
bring that
email to Administrator Wade and
Yeah.
she'll get it out to everyone.
Gallons of paint.
Yeah.
My house.
That's what I was
been there for a year.
Let's get rid of some paint, yeah.
It'd be an interesting mural.
Right, I know.
If there's no other comments, we'll move on to mayor and or council presentations. From the mayor's side, I did have a topic, but I'm going to talk about it later on in the presentation. Typically, councilors, this is an opportunity for you to bring up any topic you would like to outside of other city business and or like give a presentation or an update on something that might be going on or of interest. With that, though, we'll flip the script this time. We'll start with Councilor Zine.
No further comments at this time.
Okay, Councilor Sonier.
I believe this is the best time to bring up, I'm not sure exactly how much to share, but I would like to have a, executive session to just talk about the performance of an employee. I'm not sure how much I should share because they get the opportunity to have either a closed or open session. So I don't know how much I need to share in order to make a motion or what I would do next. Do you guys
So that would be all you could share
Okay,
at this point.
that's what I thought. So,
Yeah.
I know it's not a lot of details, but I think there's some things I think we should discuss as a council in a potentially closed session, so. I guess, do I ask for a motion or do I make a motion?
Well, do the new counselors understand what an executive session is and why we have them?
Yes.
So,
So,
okay. Yeah, so you make a motion and then we would start working on it.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we hold an executive session to just consider stuff about an employee. Sorry, I know it's not a lot of information, but
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of setting this, executive session up, just go ahead and say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay,
thank you.
Councilor Steininger, is there any objection to having this executive session before the next meeting, such as at 6:30?
No, I think 6:30 would be a great time for an executive session prior to.
Just trying to give a timeline, if that works for you, Mr. Wade.
Yes, that works. And I'll be sending out some more details to council in the weekly update.
Okay, anything else, Councilor Steiner?
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Donovan?
I just want to thank our staff. Police department has been very responsive. I notified them here recently. They checked things out for me. Appreciate that. And staff is just doing a great job. But people that are present sitting here, as far as I know, the rest of staff's been doing good too. So we can discuss that other individual. Anyway, thank you very much. Welcome to our new counselors. I appreciate you guys coming on board.
Thank you.
And taking time out of your day and evening and coming here to help us out from the city. Thank you.
Councilor Pichon?
It's not really city business, but I wanted to publicly at least thank you, Mayor Rossestill, and your wife for helping spread the word with the write-in election and get me on here, and a few other people in town. They know who they are. I just appreciate the help from those people, and to the staff for welcoming me in, showing me around and, you know, talking about things. I really appreciate it. Everybody's been very friendly and very welcoming. So thank you all for that.
Wonderful. The only other thing I'm going to add, since we are at the start of a new year, I do want to thank Public Works for getting the holiday decorations down in a very timely manner and up in a very timely manner. Last year they were up until, I think, what was it, Valentine's Day. I was joking that they were Valentine's decorations, candles. But, you know, and on top of that, the effort that went into refurbishing, the effort that went into refurbishing them this year and wrapping those poles and actually painting the old rusted poles, last year, it is starting to make the city look nicer in the areas that we can control. So my appreciation on that. Also, my continued appreciation of the police department. Everywhere I go, I hear nothing but positive things, whether it's in discussions with Donald, or whether it's discussions with North Marion School District or residents around here. Your presence is definitely valued, and we all feel safer because of it. That's all I've got. So with that, let's move right along to the city administrator report out, and we'll start off with Administrator Sean Wade.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. At the previous city council meeting, the council requested that new financial reports be developed for consideration. Attached to my report, I have included the burn rate report and financial statements that council has been receiving every month, and a set of new reports that reflect expenditures by month, the amount of budget remaining, and the percent spent. I was curious if this new report was informative and met the expectations, or were there any questions on that report, or?
I love the report. I hate the legal format, but it's so long. Is there any way to get an electronic version of this?
Absolutely.
Because though the printout is great, I'm assuming it's in Excel. And I live and die in Excel, so I would love to be able to play with this in Excel and it would allow me to do better analysis than I can do actually on a piece of paper. But no, I appreciate it. This is great, especially with it's going over month over month.
Okay, would you, so is this a report that you would want to continue in your council packets? And do we want to discontinue the financial statements? Or do you still,
This would be more valuable to me than the other report you were doing.
okay,
I know there's not a lot of graphs or prettiness to this, but it's the raw data. I think the only thing that would be great is if we can put some sort of a performance indicator on the number to show if it grows above or drops below a certain percentage that might be expected. And I don't know what that might be. For example, maybe a growth on the expenditure of say over 4% from the prior month, maybe turns it red. If it, is a drop of 4%, maybe it turns into a different color just to draw quick attention to it. I mean, that's ideally what I would do is add a simple column and just show a month over month percentage change. That way I can quickly identify areas that might be, just pop out as a red flag.
okay.
That would be my 2 cents. Other counselors, Counselor Stein,
No comments.
Counselor Steiner,
I do prefer this format.
Counselor Godwin.
Yeah, this new format. Glance at it, it looks like a lot easier to read, that's for sure. Yeah, I like it.
Counselor Bishop.
Yeah, I agree. It's very nice, but I think we could go electronic. I don't think we need a paper.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, definitely save on as much paper as possible.
Yeah.
I do know, and in fact, I was supposed to bring that up in my mayor presentation, as what could we do to try to eliminate some of the printing waste? At the end of the day, when you look at these reports, or even the packets here, right, we're taking staff time to print them, which is also taking ink from the color printer. It's paper. I don't know what the cost is per sheet, but I've got to assume it's 5 or 6 cents a sheet at the end of the day, if not more. You have staff time to actually produce it, sort it. Whatever we could do, in my opinion, to eliminate paper waste and send it to us electronically, I would be a huge supporter of that.
Okay.
Now, we don't need to make the broader discussion here, but I'll bring it up next month, because I know we're already running late. Okay, continue on, Mr. Wade.
All right, thank you. So, as mentioned, the burn rate report is attached and some highlights from that report. Approximately $1,037,266 of the $1,096,950 in property tax revenue has been received as of December. It is estimated that the projected revenue will all be received by the end of March 2025. Salaries and benefits continue to come in under budget as a result of vacancy savings. However, the vacancy in the police department has been filled and the savings will not continue to be recognized in coming months. Discussions will continue with Metcom. As you know, this has been kind of a hot topic for administration. With the support of the police chief, staff negotiated the cost of providing dispatch services for the city of Donald down from $25,000 to $5,000 this year. As mentioned in my monthly report, discussions are ongoing with Metcom and their board regarding the proposed rate structure for fiscal year 26. Utility bills continue to, or utility billing continues to be a concern, not our billing, the utilities we're paying. As they're tracking approximately 10% over budget as of December 31st. Part of this is because of the PGE rate increase. The anticipated rate increase for the city of Hubbard is going to be an additional 7.7% increase. So that percentage over budget that we're already at 50% through the fiscal year is just going to continue to grow. A thorough financial review is underway. However, staff is going to take a conservative approach as the city moves through the fiscal year to ensure that the city remains within budget. This means that some expenditures may not be made in this fiscal year. I would like to highlight just a couple more items from my monthly report. I'd like to share the great news that the audit was completed by the auditing firm by December 31st, which means that we met the Secretary of State filing deadline. Staff is working with the auditor to identify when the audit will be presented to the city council. Just a high level overview, there were no audit findings per se. There were some significant risks identified. Part of that is kind of having dual controls in a small city environment. It's kind of hard to have dual controls over everything. There was a data entry error made in utility billing rates. And so we've put in a process to double check and make sure that the rates are accurate when we put them in. Nobody got overcharged. Some people got undercharged last fiscal year, but that's since been corrected. The total loss of revenue on that error was just about $10,000. So it wasn't largely material. Additionally, the ARPA deadline for December 31st to commit all ARPA funds was met. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Civil West Engineering. The city would not have met this deadline without civil engineering dropping all the work that they were working on to help the city get the procurement out on the street awarded and the contract executed by the end of December. They literally worked over the holiday to help the city meet this deadline. So I really appreciate everything that they have done. Additionally, staff is seeking direction from council regarding the ongoing costs of the consultant for the urban renewal districts. The city council approved moving forward with the implementation of an urban renewal district during the December 10th city council meeting to set up an urban renewal agency, which is required to have an urban renewal district in a city. Coordination with Marion County and the state of Oregon is required, and setting up a separate agency in compliance with budget law will be needed. These are areas that I don't have experience in and can really use a consultant's help and guidance to have the conversations with Marion County and also the state. The additional consultant amount will not exceed $20,000. And if staff is unable to identify general fund to cover the cost, staff is recommending that reserve funds be considered. The reserve fund had a beginning balance of $161,327. And during the budget development process for this current fiscal year, the city council approved $72,000 of that to be used for city hall security upgrades and ballistic helmets for the police department. This leaves approximately $89,000 in reserve funds available for this use. While I do feel that we will be able to identify general funds to help fill this gap, just in case this is not a formal approval from the city council, as a formal approval would actually come in a supplemental budget later in the year. But I would like city council to just consider this request to use reserve funds. And then for the final update, I'm considering holding a quarterly forum for community members so that they have an opportunity to ask questions, to hear updates on city projects or other topics. Staff is still working out the structure and will keep city council informed on how that develops. And that concludes my report. Does council have any questions?
Yeah, two questions for me. Metcom is a huge concern of mine, obviously. And as we move forward, it's going to be a growing concern if it finds out, or if it comes to realization that we're paying more to support Donald than we're actually seeing anything back. So is this something, I know you're working right now with Newburgh, we're trying to mitigate it, et cetera. Is this something that we're also bringing Donald into the discussion with, their mayor or city manager?
So Mayor, council, I have been keeping the city manager of Donald informed of this. Initially, when we first started conversations before we entered into that intergovernmental agreement with the city of Donald, Metcom was going to charge us $35,000, which they're really just pulling numbers out of the air. There is no rhyme or reason. So when they stated that they would lower it to $25,000 and then they developed this new rate structure, I told them if we pay $25,000 in this fiscal year just for Donald, then that's gonna be prorated over the next few years, based on the new rate model. So that's when all of a sudden we got a phone call and it's $5,000. So I have
35 to 5, it just.
I
makes
have
sense, just like
very
that.
little confidence in how they're developing this rate structure. And really the content behind it. They say it's based on call volume, but I have a lot of questions as far as the 2.1 million that they say is their budget, what makes up that budget. I want to see a budget breakdown that's never been provided. So we are seeking other options.
Okay, thank you. ARPA funds, that was a huge Herculean effort, thanks to Civil West and city staff to get that done. Has there been a retrospective or something that's been completed on lessons learned from that, so we don't find ourselves in that type of position in the future? I want to make sure we don't just like, okay, it's done, and that was a huge, huge deal and almost cost the city quite a lot of money. So is there plans to do some sort of I don't want to use that word postmortem, right? Retrospective is a much nicer word to use. But some sort of a look back on lessons learned, how we can avoid it, et cetera, in the future?
Yeah, so it's really an approach of getting a calendar working backwards. And that's what we're gonna have to do from now on, that these steps need to happen before this deadline date in order to meet it.
Okay.
So that's the approach that we're gonna take.
So I'm assuming any grant dollars we get are probably gonna have the same type of requirements. Either spend the funds or report back or whatever it might be.
Yeah, the ARPA funds are actually, they have been a lot more, I would say, restrictive on the deadlines. And we're not the only ones that have had an issue with meeting the, commitment deadline. So several other cities have as well. And they are gonna be reverting back some money, but that's definitely something that I didn't want our city to have to do.
No, and I appreciate the effort that you, the rest of the staff and Civil West for sure did. It was a lot of work right at the closing days of the year to make sure that got cleared. The other one, understand the reserve funds, the need for the urban rural district. I think I've already shared with you my apprehension about using reserve funds. But at the same time, as long as you believe it's healthy, et cetera, because the reserve funds are not the same as contingency funds. Just, I'll wait for you to come back and let us know. But I am, just cautious on moving forward with where we go with those reserve funds. That would only be my only concern, because again, there's a lot of unknowns that can come up. I know the contingency funds are there, but the reserve funds could also help offset some of those unknowns.
And Mayor, Council, it is fully my intent to be able to pay that out of general fund. But just as a backup, I wanted to inform council that if that is an option, or at least something to consider.
I am a huge supporter of the urban renewal district. I think it will have great benefits for the city in the long run. So definitely support whatever we need to do to go there. I'm just hoping not to touch reserve funds. That's all. Okay, let's go around the room real quick and we'll count with start with Councilor Zani. Any questions?
No question.
Okay, Councilor Steiner.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree, because just to make sure, the reserve funds would be only whatever's left over, even, it wouldn't, most likely not be all of it would come out. Because it's just whatever after you find it in the general fund, correct?
Well, so for example, if I'm unable to find, so I don't think we're gonna hit the $20,000 mark for the not to exceed anyway. I do feel like that we can find it in the general fund. If we can't find the full amount, we would tap into the reserve fund if council approves that, yeah. So it would
It'd
be
be
any,
just the residual. bit,
right, correct.
Not the whole, it's not one or the other fund.
Right.
No, I definitely appreciate looking for consultants in situations where you need the consultants. That's what they're there for, so, thank you.
Yeah, it's much cheaper than using your time as well. Okay, Councilor Yonley.
And just a couple things, I think on those ARPA funds, we didn't have had obligated some of the funds and they had returned back to us. At one
They've all been now properly.
Yeah, so that might have been part of the problem of having too much money in the kitties, because we got some of that money back.
We have to spend it all. We have to spend it or lose it.
So, yeah, obligated, I understand, obligated by the end of the year, yeah. I've been in federal government way too long not to understand how that works. And the other thing was the urban renewal district, we're looking at revenue forecasting and property taxes, things like that. And I know the general discussions has been around a 10-year, what do you call that, was putting money back into the tip. I don't remember what the terminology was there. Anyway, I keep and putting that money back into that area. And we don't have to structure it around a 10-year time frame. We can do a shorter time frame, let's say 5 years or 7 years, something like that, to where we're not without that revenue on, a whole 10-year time frame. And that's just kind of one of my thoughts.
Yeah, from what I understand on the urban renewal district, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is we can extend it out and shorten it if we want, sunset it earlier, but you can't extend it from what your original one is, from what I understand, at least, all right, if we were to go into a 10-year,
Then we can sunset it early.
we could sunset early, but
Go
we,
15 off.
yeah, we can't just then grow it to 15 or 20, can we?
It's actually opposite.
Okay.
So once we identify and a couple things, so it's 10, 20, or 30 years. So you can, say, okay, it's gonna be a 10-year. And then once you get close to the end of that 10-year mark, you do have the option to extend it.
Okay.
Okay,
You, once you say it's a 10-year, you can't reduce it to 5.
Okay, so it's the opposite then, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And just to clarify too, I want to be cautious if we're gonna do the urban renewal district. If we're looking at a 10-year, that's really not long enough to earn the type of revenue that we need to earn to really impact the development beautification of the areas that we've identified within the boundary. It's really recommended to be 20. 30 is a little long, but 20 is really recommended. That way you can secure bond funding easier if you want to take out a bond. The type of bond that we would go for in this case, once we've demonstrated that that property tax revenue is coming in and that would pay off the debt service and interest. It's not something that has to be approved by the voters because we're not increasing a tax in any way. So I think that's something that we need to consider as we go through this process to actually develop the agency, nail down the urban renewal district boundary, what the revenue is going to bring in, and kind of go through. We're a long ways from actually getting anything in place. It won't be until September of this year where we actually kind of finalize things and get it ready for the budget development process for fiscal year 27.
A long process.
Yeah, it's a very long
Anyway,
process.
I was just kind of thinking that, being without that revenue stream for 10 years, how that is going to impact our city budget during that time frame. Because I understand it's just a small percentage of our overall property tax income, but that is a percentage that we're going to be without. Hopefully that will
Exactly.
increases, but we're still going to be without it for that.
And that is one of my concerns as well, because having the cap on the property tax growth of just 3% because of measures 5 and 50, and we don't anticipate voters would vote to overturn those measures because it is to the property tax payers' advantage, right? So that is a concern of mine, is that property tax is about 47% of our general fund revenue. And we're pretty maxed out on some of the other revenue streams that we can tap into, unless down the road we look at some sort of public safety levy, which is a concern because then we're in competition with potentially the school district or the fire districts. Again, that's another tax. So there are some things that are a little concerning to me that we need to kind of figure out and look at as we go through this process.
But right now, just a bunch of what ifs.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
That's it.
If not, Chris, yeah, Counselor Michelle? Almost said Chris.
No questions really, although I do find the whole Metcom thing to be sort of. So I am, Curious to see what they come back to you with, so can't wait to hear them.
2,500 is
Yeah.
the goal.
Keep going. They're just keep giving out random numbers for no reason. Let's move on then to, police department, with, Chief Parisi.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. On behalf of the Hubbard Donald Police Department, we'd like to extend a welcome to Councilors Michelle and Zadi. It's great to have you on the team, and we look forward to working with you in the coming years. So, December, it was an amazing month. It was really exciting. It was all about community engagement and connection, really, which is what we prefer. It's the best part of our job and what we get to do. We participated in several different functions and different events, starting with the City of Hubbard's tree lighting ceremony and whatnot. That was a great event. We also were able to participate in 3 different Santa walks, along with Bricks for North Marion. That was obviously here in Hubbard, Donald, and then even Aurora extended an invite to us, that being the fire department. And so we gladly accepted there and took part in that as well. So that was awesome. We participated in 2 different Shop with a Cop events. One was here at the Woodburn Walmart, and we participated with the Woodburn Police Department, Woodburn Fire Department, and the local schools within the city of Woodburn there, and had a great time. We also went down to Kaiser Station at the Target there and participated with a Believe in Your Community, who kind of sponsors that event, and lots of other law enforcement partners as well, from FBI to state police and all the other jurisdictions within Marion County as well assisted there. So it was a great way to network and also help out children and families who were in need, and make sure they were having a great Christmas and whatnot. So we also went over to Donald for the Santa sing-along. So that was great as well. And so yeah, lots of fun stuff. I also attended the Marion County Executive Leadership Team meeting, which occurs every month, actually, down in Salem at the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training Facility there, the Police Academy. So we all meet once a month, and I was there for that. We also had a great holiday pizza party. I don't know if anybody mentioned it, but thank you to City Administrator Wade for bringing us all together, and that was a lot of good just fellowship with all city staff and whatnot. So also
Seems so long ago.
I know it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's like, wow. We also participated with the North Marion School District at the middle school assembly and also at the primary school assembly. We went there just to kind of introduce ourselves to the middle school students and staff and whatnot, that they actually have a police department. This is the first year that we, been dedicated to them, and just kind of introduce ourselves to them at their assembly before they broke for the Christmas break, and just encourage them and let them know if they ever need anything to reach out, that we were here to help them. And then at the primary school as well, I had the great opportunity of reading during an assembly to the K through 2 students, and it was the best. It just made my day, and partnered with the principal there and whatnot. And I ended up reading Officer Buckle and Gloria, which was a book all about safety and things of that nature. And then we took a lot of great ideas from the students too, who offered safety tips, that were just phenomenal, like never throw a saucepan or something like that. It was just so cute. It was the cutest thing.
Sounds like that was a lesson learned from public experience.
I know, I was like, oh, we probably maybe should talk afterward. But that was a great time. So yeah, right, exactly. Happy to report all of our in-car camera systems have arrived from our vendor LensLock. We're really excited about that. We actually just secured an upfitting company. We had 3 different quotes. They were all over the board. We've been able to secure an appointment with a vendor who actually outfitted our cars years ago and whatnot. They're extremely busy, but very gracious enough to work us in. And that's actually going to start this Friday morning. I just found out. I got a call when I was out on the scene of that, incident that we just came from. And so, the owner of the company called and said he'll start on Friday. And so they're anticipating 2 vehicles a week. So over 3 weeks, we should have all 6 cars upfitted with the new in-car camera system. But that was just a conservative estimate. He's gonna try to get us done a lot sooner, so that'll be nice. Because like tonight, that would have been extremely valuable to have. So we're looking forward to that. And also, I just want to say on that note, just take a moment to really express my sincere gratitude to City Administrator Waite for her exceptional leadership, hard work, and dedication to really making this project a reality. And so her efforts have been instrumental in bringing this very important equipment and technology to our department. And I'm deeply appreciative for all your effort. It's going to truly make a difference and improve the safety that we provide, not only to our officers, but to our community, as well as the transparency piece. So huge thank you very much. It's been awesome. And with that, I'll take any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, we'll start with Councilor Pichelle. Anything?
No questions, but thank you for everything you and the department do in the city. I've had great interactions with all your officers and just really happy with the whole department. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Young?
Nothing at this point in time. Do want to get with you after the council meeting.
You bet.
Councilor Steininger?
I don't really have anything new, but thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Zani?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I have no questions. I just wanted to say I was able to catch the pictures of shopping the cop on Facebook. And let me tell you, it's really heartwarming for Christmas to see that. It really meant a lot. I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for your officers.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, if not, we'll move on then to Director Noble.
Okay, I just wanted to remind you all about orientation next Wednesday, January 22nd at 6 o'clock. Hope you all have that on your calendars.
Oh, yeah, it's totally highlighted.
I'll put it on the calendar.
I'm working on obtaining emails for the new counselors, so hopefully we'll be getting those soon. In my report, I have an update about the payroll. We were going to go to bi-weekly payroll, but there was some unforeseen circumstances, so we are staying with the 2 pay dates that we have been doing for years. So, and employees have been notified and updated with the new schedule and timesheets.
And I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. So the unforeseen circumstances actually ended up in most of the employees getting like $400 or more pay reduction, just how it was set up. And Vicky worked very, very hard yesterday and today to get everything straightened out so that everybody got their full paycheck for this week. So I appreciate all the hard work that she has put in the last 48 hours. It's been incredible.
I just didn't want them, you know, in my office hanging on. I would have had to get a new address. Okay, utility billing, is still being monitored for delinquency accounts, and the office staff is working very hard to keep that to a minimum, the shut-offs and everything. The list has gone tremendously down from what we've seen in years past, so kudos to Julie and Megan on that. I appreciate that. Land use, the planning commission is meeting for next Tuesday, has been canceled, and the next regular scheduled meeting is February 18th. Municipal court. Oops. We'll go back to I made you guys some real pretty graphs.
Yep.
So over the past years, the Hubbard Municipal Court decreased the monthly court dates from 12 months a year to about 7 or 8 months. And due to the increase of the activity in the municipal court, we've had to increase the schedule back to 12 months for the year. So, the court usually meets the first Wednesday of every month. Well, this, falls in line with court payments, water utility billing payments. There's a lot of activity going on the first week of every month. So we've been trying to work with the judge to try to schedule it on another day to try to spread, things out and, work a little bit more efficiently instead of, on high alert all the time. So, anyway, we're working towards that. Last month, I reported about the building permits and not a lot has changed. So, there was a 5-year look at this and we didn't really have anything more come in since, November. So I had reported in 2020, there was some fill lots and a few industrial and commercial buildings. Other types of permits were remodeled, tenant improvement, this type building application. And there was a single family residential permits since 2019. So I'm crossing my fingers that maybe this next year we'll see that increase. And I do not have anything more to add to my report unless you have any questions.
Okay, Counselor Ziding, any questions?
My only question was, I was curious, is the drop in delinquencies in the water bill due to it comes out every month now, as opposed to every 2 months?
The drop in the
Yeah,
amount having.
you were saying that delinquencies is gone down.
Yes,
So I heard that right.
yes, so it was every other month, so that got split into, so now we're in a month.
So that's helped.
That's actually increased activity for us. Yeah,
Sorry to
so,
hear that.
yeah, because we're having to put out bills monthly and we're taking in more monthly. It just added more work.
Sorry.
No.
Thank you for that.
That's okay.
But I think the question though is, have we seen a drop in delinquency? Or has it remained the same?
Oh, we've seen a very good, drop in delinquencies, but a lot of that is due to, staff, being able to make those calls and, see something going on and working with the community members to, get their bills paid.
I agree. I mean, to answer a little bit, we've been trying to be really proactive. When we see stuff that's they might be turned off, we've been trying to make phone calls, remind people, especially changing. There's still a lot of people that had been doing it for quite a few years the other way. And we also try to express bill pay when we see a card's gonna be expired. A lot of times people don't know to change their cards. And if we check and be proactive, it's gonna be expired and they're on auto pay, we try to call them and say, hey, your card's gonna be expired. Just kind of giving a little more customer service and being proactive.
Thank you. That's a real benefit to our citizens. Thank you very much.
It is, and I can see Mrs. Rosticell right now trying to update her card. All right, well, moving along, Counselor Steiner.
No, as somebody that moved to town roughly during the COVID era and got home from work to find out I had no water, the more increase, like reaching out has been really helpful. Cause I am really bad at updating auto pay and I switch accounts way too often. So you guys have been a lifesaver in reminding me, so thank you.
Okay, Counselor Young,
I have nothing, thank you.
Counselor Michelle.
Just a quick question on this building permits, page. Just to make sure I'm reading it right. So the top gray, the 3 gray lines would coincide with 3 gray lines on the second page, and then the white with the white. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, that was my only question.
Awesome, let's move on then. Public Works Department, Superintendent Olinger.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. So just a few additions to my report. So on the consent agenda, you've seen that there's a request to accept and authorize City Administrator Sean Waite to execute the notice of award and contract documents for the UV installation project. In addition to that, wanted to let council know that staff is also currently working with DEQ to final the mutual agreement and final order that's required in order to be able to complete the installation work. That document will be active from the date of execution through May 1st. So we have to make sure that that project actually does happen and construction is complete by no later than May 1st, 2025. And also, as I noted in my memo to council, this is a very critical project, which once complete will contribute substantially towards staff's ability to continue to meet mandatory bacteria reductions. On number 4 for the new 4-way stop intersections, just one additional shout out to those community members who stepped up and helped us out with that project by allowing us to connect to their power. It saved us the extra step of having to find a different way to ground that equipment that we had rented for that project. So that was hugely appreciated. Nothing more to report on the rain wind event. Everything went well and no issues were seen or reported. The shop roof replacement, that's been, it's almost complete. We completed a final inspection and I noted to the contractor that we had just one minor underlayment area that needs to be addressed. Once they've completed that and it's been corrected, the project will be considered complete and final payment will be approved and issued. And that'll be off the books. The water distribution improvements project, as Sean mentioned earlier, as approved by council, that project successfully went through the entire bid process and contract documents have been executed with KKLA contractors in the amount of $779,641. Our project team is quickly moving forward with the project. Our pre-construction meeting is actually scheduled for this coming Friday, January 17th. So we're looking forward to that. That will be with all of the players. That will be all of our funding. People will be there. The contractor will be there. City staff will be there. City engineers, project team will be there. So it'll be a pretty extensive meeting. And also just wanted to note, especially for our new counselors, that this is just one piece of our overall major water system improvements project. This piece of it consists of the distribution pipe upgrade work in 5 separate locations that includes second, third, fifth, C, and G streets. Additionally, the project includes the furnishing and installation of approximately 854 linear feet of 1-inch copper tubing to reconnect 49 water meters to the new distribution piping that we'll be installing. It's a relatively straightforward project. We just have one area of note where we have a Northwest Natural pipeline, which is in conflict with where we're going to be putting one of the new distribution lines. So staff's already on top of it. We've been working with Northwest Natural to go through the process of making sure that that line is relocated by them prior to when we need to put in that distribution line. So that's already in the works. I don't anticipate that that's going to delay the project at all. Substantial project completion is anticipated at about 160 days. So for that project. In addition, work continues on those other pieces of the major project, including the well number 1 replacement and relocation, water treatment plant improvements, which includes the booster pump that I think was mentioned earlier to increase that static water pressure. So those continue to be in the works and are moving forward. No additional information on that one. Just a few, I did want to sincerely apologize. I am still not completed and ready to provide the updated dashboard document, but I am working on that. I just keep having other things that take priority over that piece of the project. But I am still working on it and I'm dedicated to make sure that that happens. In addition, I also have a few other general updates to share. As council is aware, the wastewater treatment plant did experience a sanitary sewer overflow from the lower digester on December 17th. The digester is equipped with an alarm system, which is the first layer of protection in place to prevent overflow incidents from happening. It is designed to activate an alarm call out to all staff when the digester levels reach a certain level. And that call out is meant to mean that staff can respond prior to before it becomes an incident and it's actually overflowed and it becomes a DEQ event. Unfortunately, that equipment did malfunction in this last overflow incident and no call out did take place, which resulted in a significant delay before staff was able to respond. So upon discovery of the incident, all mandatory response efforts were completed in a timely manner and in coordination with DEQ representatives and DEQ regulations. Prevention procedures have been initiated already. They were initiated immediately after the event took place, as soon as we had everything under control and the spill had been stopped and cleaned up. One of those procedures that we've got in place now is we have posted on both of our exit doors in the wastewater treatment plant mandatory sign off, and the last working operator of the day is required to do a physical walkthrough of the lower treatment plant to make sure there isn't anything out of place, everything is shut off, and then they have to come back up and sign off on those sheets, and that's kind of our documentation in place to make sure that this is happening, and also a physical reminder, because when you go to leave, you see the sign, so it's a reminder for staff to get into that habit of performing that activity. In addition, we also have already met with the equipment provider for that alarm system, and we have that back up and running, and it is going to be tested on a weekly basis just to make sure that there aren't any mishaps with that backup that backup piece of alarm system, letting us know if something happens. So I also wanted to let staff know, or council know, that staff did recently receive a verbal notice from DEQ that there will be 2 fines that will be issued for this incident as well as the previous overflow incident in the amount of $1,200 per incident, so for a total of $2,400, so $2,400. I did want to note this is significantly less than the original $50,000 that had originally been estimated, which then went down to the $5,000, and now, as you know, has ended at $2,400.
Never mind, Con.
If we have a third spill, do we get to 2,400, reduced to 1,200? That's not.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the update on that incident. I also did want to share with council that yesterday I received the official closeout documents for the 2021 severe winter and ice storm disaster from OEM. Reimbursement funds were recently received in the amount of a total of $35,102.17 and have already been receipted into the appropriate revenue funds where those expenses and costs came for responding to that incident back in 2021. General fund received $8,674 and change. Our street fund received $6,837 and change. Sewer received $11,417 and change, and the water fund received $8,172 and change. So that was good. That's nice that also now is off of the books 100%. So thank you to OEM for working with us on that. Also, just a quick update, where staff is also working on our emergency operation plan update, and it is making progress. So to date, staff has had 2 meetings with the contractor to provide city-specific detail for this update, and the project is on track to be completed on schedule. In addition, the safety manual update is very close to completion. The final edits are currently being combined into the final document, after which it'll be ready for approval and adoption. And that is what I have for tonight, unless the council have any questions.
I'll start off. I do appreciate the update on the spill and the process changes that are being put in place. I know it is disappointing that we had yet another spill, and I'm sure we'll have a further discussion about it at a later date, well, next month. But outside of that, I do appreciate the effort you're putting into making sure that at least it does not happen again, that at least the alarm system is going to be tested monthly to make sure that that is also in a consistent working shape. I'm hoping though that there's some sort of policy being put in place that if a sign off is skipped or falsely done, that there'll be obviously some sort of corrective action on the employee. That would be my only hope is, like, if they're signing their name to something, I want to make sure that there's some teeth to it.
Yeah, it would definitely fall under the progressive discipline.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, great to hear that we're moving forward on the water distribution improvement project. I had a big question, that's that static question mark. I'm like, these names are always changing on me. I think it'll be fabulous the day that our water pressure is not only working, but we don't have any leaks throughout the city too. So we'll see how that goes. I know it's step by step. Other than that, thank you for getting the stop signs up. I do appreciate Public Works actually putting individuals out there on a very rainy night. When they first went up to try to notify folks that you have new stop signs and new traffic control, options out. You didn't necessarily have to go that far, and you guys did. So thank you for trying to do that. And I know people are still running them. They'll learn. The police department will eventually get over there. I'm sure. That's all I've got. I don't want to take up any more time because we're already running pretty late this evening, but Councilor Zadi?
I have no questions, thank you.
Councilor Stein?
I do want to say thank you for giving us an update on the sewer spill, because not seeing it active. I had a lot of questions and you did do a good job of answering them, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Young?
Have no questions at this time?
Councilor Michelle?
Sure. With regard to the Public Works dashboard, I know, the previous iteration was in the council packet that was also available online. Has there been any thought to putting the new one online as a standalone that citizens could go to and take a look at anytime they wanted?
Absolutely, and that is part of the plan.
Okay.
Once it's in place, then yes, it will be posted on a monthly basis.
Excellent.
Yes, very important to make sure that transparency is there.
Yes.
I think it goes a long way. And I like the idea that Administrator Wade brought up with either a quarterly or whatever it might be, public awareness meeting, if we get more to actually attend them.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, we have a lot of good stuff going on in the city and a lot of folks just don't know about. If that's it, let's move on to Hubbard Fire District. We do have Chief Carmen on. Chief, I apologize. We seem to be consistently running late. I know, and I'll bring this up with city staff later when we do the agenda. Chief Carmen has asked if we could either move his time up so he's not just sitting on and listening to our amazing meetings, but he has important things to do as well. So Chief Carmen, are you still listening?
Yes, Mayor, I am.
All right, we'll hand it over to you real quick for an update.
Thank you, Council, for giving me this time. Welcome, Councilman Zadi and Pichelle, to the council. Look forward to working with you guys in the future. Just to start, I want to talk a little bit about December. We had 84 calls for service. This was slightly under the amount of calls that we had in December of 2023 by 7. So not too much of a change. As far as our year-end statistics go, we had a total of 855 calls for service during the calendar year. We did 24 public education and outreach events throughout the year. We had 3 structure fires in district. And then this is one that I'm very proud of. We had 5 calls out of those 855 that no Hubbard fire units responded to. However, with the IGA that we have with Woodburn Fire District and Aurora Fire District, we were able to have all 5 of those calls get a fire response, even if they were not from the Hubbard Fire District. So very proud of that this last calendar year. Hopefully 2025 can be the same. Breakdown, 61% of those 855 calls were EMS, 10% were motor vehicle accidents, 14% were structure fires and structure fire related calls, 9% were wildfires, and 6% were hazmat and or public service calls. We got a new website coming. It should be up maybe in the next week, maybe the week after that. Something we've been working hard on the last 2 weeks. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll let everyone know via our social media when that's up and running. Then we did send Engine 88 down to California with 4 members. They left last Wednesday. We expect that they'll be doing fire suppression operations throughout their deployment. They work 24 hours on, then they get a 24-hour break, and then they go back to work for another 24 hours. When that ends, it will be, they should be home or released from the fire on Sunday, January 26th. That's if they're not held over for urban search and rescue and body recovery. Next month, I am working with Vicki to have a presentation for you guys. The Hubbard Fire District Board of Directors approved the district to go out for a levy in the May election. So I'll have some more information about that and a formal presentation to give you guys at next month's meeting. You have any questions for me?
Well, not a lot of questions. I'm really happy to hear the IGAs are working out well. I know that takes a lot of effort and a lot of cooperation between the agencies, both from us and from them. So hearing that those are working out well is a sign of great leadership in the district. So thank you on that. Other one, my prayers are with the crews that are down in California. Hopefully they stay safe. I don't know how anyone can do a 24-hour on. I would be dead in 8 hours. I don't think I can handle that long. So continue to pray for their safe return. And I'm very proud to see that we were able to send someone down or a group down to help out with the devastation going on down there. Looking forward to your new website. And I do apologize that we kept you on so late for your update. I promise we'll get you moved up eventually.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Councilor Zaki, any questions you might have for Chief Carmen?
No questions, Chief, but as someone who grew up in the areas that are affected by the fire right now and has family members and friends there, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Councilor Simon?
Yeah, I appreciate the quick sending a team down and something we can do from the Hubbard area to be able to help down there. So our thoughts and prayers are definitely with the crew down there, and thank you for letting them go.
Councilor Young?
One thing I can add is I agree with the previous counselors and their wishes for the fire crew to assist in their safe return.
Councilor Michelle?
Well, in the interest of agreeing with everyone else, yeah, thank you for sending them down, and I too hope they come back safely.
Chief Carmen, I continue to extend my appreciation for you dialing into this meeting, providing updates. I know the Hubbard Fire District is not part of the city government, but it is, we're all in this together. You dialing in and giving these updates, it just really continues to help us foster and build that community. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's move on to consent agenda. For the new counselors, what I'll be doing here is reading each one of the titles. After that, we'll go for a motion to approve and approve, hopefully. So with that, this shouldn't be too bad. Usually they try to give me a page worth of reading, so this won't be that bad. Consent agenda: A, approval of December 10th, 2024 City Council minutes. B, approval of the December 2024 check register report. C, resolution number 801-2025, a resolution of the Hubbard City Council approving a ballot title and an explanatory statement for voter enactment of a motor vehicle fuel tax and referring the measure to the ballot. D, resolution number 802-2025, a resolution creating a convenience fee for credit card transactions for services provided by the city of Hubbard other than utility and municipal court payments, and repealing resolution 796-2024. E, accept and authorize City Administrator Sean Wake to execute the notice of award and contract documents for the UV wastewater disinfection system equipment installation to 2KG Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $65,297.
Make a motion to pass the consent agenda as read.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion now, a second. All those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Consent agenda carries. Next agenda topic is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and no race, but we'll get there. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Usually the meetings don't go this way.
Got him sworn in.
For a January meeting, yeah, this was a long one. We had the public hearing and then the forecast report out.
I had an allocated
Okay.
bunch of times ago.